Hi guys, it's Kay. So today I wanted to make some caramel apples. It's fall time, it's almost Halloween, and you cannot let the year pass by without having one of these babies. So I decided to show you today how to make gourmet caramel apples. If you want to learn how to make this, just keep watching. So you're going to need quite a few things for this. First thing being soft caramels. You're also going to need a few pieces of the hard caramels. That's just going to help the caramel be a little bit tougher when you put it on the apple so it doesn't really run off. You're going to need some water, some butter, and that's all for the caramel part. Then for the toppings, there's an array of toppings that you can use. This is just what I'm going to be using today, but you can use anything you like. I have some toasted chopped peanuts. I have some Butterfinger, chopped Butterfinger, some chopped Snickers, and then I also have some white and dark candy melts because I wanted to drizzle some of my apples in chocolate. But you're also going to need quite a few apples. Depending on how big your apples are is how many caramel apples this recipe is going to make. Just if you have small, of course you're going to get more, and I chose smaller apples so that I can get more out of it. You're also going to need some apple sticks. If you don't have apple sticks, you can also use popsicle sticks, will work just fine as well. And then you're also going to need a saucepan with a tiny bit of water in it so that you can melt your caramels over a double boiler. You can also do it in the microwave, but I'm just choosing to do it over a double boiler. And lastly, you are going to need some water that has been boiling for a little bit that cooled down for the apples. So let's go ahead and get started. So I forgot to mention, guys, you are going to need a cookie sheet lined with some parchment paper. It's best to use parchment paper just because after you dip the apples in caramel and you let them sit in the refrigerator, parchment paper I find is the easiest to get the caramel from the apple. So if you don't have parchment paper, you can use wax paper, but make sure you butter it really good so that you won't have that much trouble getting the caramel separated from the paper. But the first thing we want to work on are the apples. You want to make sure that you wash and dry your apples, and then you want to try to get this wax off of your apple. To do that, you want to take a pan of water, put it on the eye, let it boil, and then let it cool down a little bit. And then now what we're going to do is take the apples and put them in the hot water. That's going to kind of melt off the wax from the apple. That way when we go to dip it in the caramel, it sticks a little bit better. This water is extremely hot, or at least mine is, so you do want to be careful. I do have just some little salad tongs here to be able to help me get the apples out, but all you want to do is just put them in there. You don't want to leave them in there for long because you don't want your apples to cook, but you want to just be able to get that wax off. So let them in there just for a few seconds. And then in the water you can actually see the wax, and it's kind of gross, but you just want to try to get that off. After you do that, you just want to put them, let them dry. You're going to have to end up drying them too by hand, but just get them all out. And then after you have them all out, you just want to dry them really, really well. Caramel is not going to stick to the apple if it's wet, so just try to make sure you get everything out. And I doubt that you can tell on camera, but now the apples are dull. That's what you want. You don't want them to be super shiny anymore because you want the wax gone. So I'm going to dry these up, finish the rest of these, and we'll be back. Once you have all your apples dipped, wax removed, and dried very well, you want to take your apple sticks or your popsicle sticks. You're just going to insert it into the apple. I did remove the stems from all the apples. To do that, of course, you just take the apple, twist the stem, and it'll come right off. But now you just want to take the stick and insert it into the apple. I like the apple sticks just because it does have a pointy side and it's much easier to get the stick in. But you just want to poke it in quite a bit ways. You just want to make sure that it's going to stay in there. And then after we get all this done, now comes the waiting part. You want to put these in your refrigerator for about 30 minutes to an hour. You want to make sure that your apples are nice and cold for when you stick them into the caramel. That's going to help the caramel not run down the apple and make it adhere to it much better. So you want to make sure your apples are super cold. One thing you could do is you can do this the day before, put them in the refrigerator overnight, and then the next day you can dip them in the caramel. I don't have very much patience, so I don't do that. I decided to just do it all in one day. But now we're going to put this in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes to an hour, let them get super cold, and then we're going to start dipping them in our caramel. So when the apples have about 10 minutes left to go in the refrigerator, you want to go ahead and start on your caramels. You want to unwrap every single caramel. It's very tedious, but you want to get them all unwrapped. To this, you want to add the 4 hard caramels, the butter, and the water. And then you're going to put this over a small saucepan of simmering water. You want to make sure that the water is barely coating the bottom. You don't want the water to touch the bottom of the bowl. And this is just going to sit here. You're just going to let it melt. While it's melting, you just want to stir it to get it melted. And what I'll do is I'll work on mine, let it start melting. When it's about halfway done, I'll show you what it looks like. And then once it's completely done, we will go ahead and start on our apples. You do want to make sure that you leave the apples in the refrigerator until this is completely done, because you want them to be as cold as possible. So I'm going to work on melting this, and when we're about halfway, I'll show you what it looks like. So this is about the halfway point. We are almost there. It's watery, but there's still some chunks in it. It's been at this stage, I guess, for about 5-6 minutes. It's going to take probably another close to 10 minutes to finish up here. But you just want to make sure it's completely solid and thick. So we're just going to finish up another maybe 8 minutes or so, and then we should be done. So this is what your caramel needs to end up looking like. It needs to roll off of your spatula or your spoon very nicely. Nice and thin coat of it. So now what we're going to do is start dipping the apples. Now I took them out of the refrigerator just a few seconds ago and enough time to come here. But what you want to do now is just take an apple, make sure it's completely dry. You're just going to dip it in the caramel, roll it around. You might have to do a few coats of it, and you do want to make sure that you work awfully fast. The caramel is going to get a little cold because the apples are cold, so you just want to make sure that you're working kind of fast. You want to let most of the excess drip off. You can also take it to the side and just rub it off too. And then depending on if you want your caramel apple just to be like this, or you can go ahead and dip it in some nuts, which I'm going to do here. I mean, you can do whatever you wish to do with the caramel apples. You want to try to stir the caramel in between, because like I said, it is going to harden as you go, because the apples are cold. If it does get a little bit too thick where you can't coat your apples anymore, you can go ahead and stick it in the microwave, or you can put it back on your double boiler to melt it a little bit. But I'm just going to continue here. You just want to roll it around in the caramel, and then I'm going to sprinkle it with little pieces of Snickers because it's my husband's favorite. Just going to put them on there. Once you have all of them coated, you want to put it back in the refrigerator for about an hour so they can set up and get nice and hard so that you can eat them. Also, I'm not showing it here, but you can always melt the candy melts that we had and drizzle it. That's what I plan on doing for the majority of my apples. So once I'm done here and they've set, I'll come back and show you what everything looks like. If you want to drizzle the apples in chocolate, all you have to do is melt your candy melts in the microwave, 30-second intervals, stirring in between. Then you just want to put them in either a piping bag or a sandwich bag and just drizzle the chocolate or on the apple. But anyways, I'm going to finish up here, and then when I am done, I'll come back and show you the final result. So that is it, guys. It does take a little bit of time to refrigerate, but once you have it down, they are so pretty and they're so delicious, and they'd be perfect for any party or just at home for a special treat. The total time it took me was maybe an hour and a half or so, not too long. The longest thing is just waiting for the caramel to get hard. But that's it. I'm just going to cut into it, see what it looks like inside. So good. The caramel's nice and thick on there, and it's just so yummy. But to get the written recipe, go to my blog. It's kaysrandomblog.com. You can get the written recipe there. Super simple. Anyone could really do it. I wanted to show you guys real quick. I did line them with these little liners. I found them at Michael. They're craft, and they're like coated with something so that the caramel doesn't stick to it. So I thought those were cool. You could put it in a cellophane bag, tie it with a bow, and that would be great. Or you can serve them just like this. But if you guys have any questions at all, definitely leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. That's all I have for today. Until next time, guys. Bye.